The witch hunts were a business. They were profitable. For each witch trial, there'd be meticulous bookkeeping. Every single step of the witch trial would be costed. There'd be a charge for going and getting the witch and seizing her. There'd be a charge for escorting her. There'd be a charge for locking her up and guarding her. There'd be a charge for someone to bring her meals if she were given meals. There'd be a charge for someone to keep the books of all of these charges. Every single step generated costs, and those costs had to be paid by somebody. If the witch had any property at all, her property would pay those costs. Her assets would be confiscated and seized. She not only had to pay the bills for her own capture, imprisonment, torture, and execution, but there was a whole secondary industry that sprang up around the witch burnings. First, it provided amazing employment opportunities for lawyers, for judges, for people who would sit on the tribunals.
Now anyone could be accused. And the witch hunts were well-organized campaigns. One accusation by a neighbor set the wheels in motion.
When a woman was accused of being a witch and went in front of the Inquisition, she'd be in jail, first of all. She may have been tortured first. Would have been out in the town square or in front of the town church. Because we're not talking about cities. This all happened in rural areas. Most of the witches were in rural areas, almost all of them. So it's a small town thing. Everybody comes out to look. The witch is brought out. She is, first of all, stripped of her clothes because she may have a spell in her clothes or something sewn into the hem which is made out of the skin of an unbaptized child or something like that. So she's stripped of all her clothes. She's shaved. Both the hair on her head and her pubic hair are shaved because hair has always been thought to have a lot of power. Even, we know the myths of Samson and so on. But also that women, when they braided their hair, were thought to braid men's fate with this kind of thing. So it was a magic technique. So she had all her hair removed. But she had to approach the Inquisitor walking backwards so she can't give him the evil eye. And the Inquisitor is somebody who is from the city. He's been appointed by the church or in later times by the ruler or whoever was in charge. So this poor rural woman who turns around to face this man that she may never have seen anything like that before in her life, he probably speaks much better French or English or whatever than she does. So the witch approaching the Inquisitor is just totally dumbfounded, has no idea what's happening to her.
Many could not withstand the methods of torture used to extract confessions. Enclosure in the Iron Maiden was like being buried alive. Frederick von Spee, a Jesuit priest, disillusioned by what he saw as a confessor to condemned witches, wrote, "Why do you search so diligently for sorcerers? Take the Jesuits, all the religious orders, and torture them. They will confess. If some deny, repeat it a few times. They will confess. Should a few still be obstinate, exorcise them, shave them. Only keep on torturing, they will give in. Take the canons, the doctors, the bishops of the church. They will all confess."
They were tortured 3 times. The first time, a lot of people got through and didn't confess. By the end of the second time, virtually everybody confessed because the torture was absolutely monstrous. And then we have the question of the 3rd degree. We get that term in English from the fact that this 3rd level of torture would virtually, if they didn't kill the people, everybody confessed.
The torturer made her sit on the rack, undressed her, and applied the thumbscrews. When the thumbscrews were applied to her toes, She cried out louder than before. The inquisitor inserted the mouth pair and demanded that she confess. When it was removed, she told her story. 10 years ago, it happened that the devil came to her in the guise of a man. First they danced, and then they dined, and then she and others knelt before the goat and kissed him. Here she named 8 neighbors. Only one letter, written in 1590 by Rebecca Lemp, survives. O husband, they take me from thee by force. How can God suffer it? My heart is nearly broken. Alas, alas, my poor dear children orphaned. Husband, send me something that I might die, or I must expire under torture. If thou canst not today, do it tomorrow. Write to me directly, R.L. Near the city of Trier, 2 entire villages were exterminated. In another, only 2 people were spared. It took the Church 200 years of terror and death to transform the image of paganism into devil worship and folk culture into heresy. The days when Europeans met under the fairy tree to dance and sing and celebrate the rites of spring were disappearing. The devil was afoot in the land. He was conjured up in fields and forest groves, and his demons were led by women.